The side of the day features tender pieces of cauliflower and potatoes simmered with cumin and coriander. I'm using this ginger garlic paste, 3 cloves of garlic, maybe a tablespoon of ginger grated finely. Add a little bit of water in here. And for the spices, I'm gonna add coriander powder, ground coriander. This comes from the seeds of the cilantro plant. It's really floral, lemony, a little grassy. It's really lovely. And a little turmeric. This has some nice earthiness and will give this dish a great color. Okay, so that's done. Stir, stir, stir. That's gonna go into that pan in a second. First, sweet little serrano pepper makes a reappearance. This time I'm just gonna slit it down the middle, not all the way, so it's still kind of connected. Throw that into my oil. That way you get more of the flavor, not as much spice. And while that's sizzling, I'm gonna get a teaspoon of cumin seeds, whole cumin seeds, nice smoky, nutty flavor. Oh, I'm gonna throw this in the oil, let it sizzle. Stand back. It's gonna start spluttering, which is very good. It's totally a good sign. And now, let me get a little spoon here ready. I'm gonna add the wet masala to the hot oil. Be careful, because it will sizzle and splutter a lot. See that? That is good. Okay, so that's gonna thicken, kind of deepen in color. I'm just gonna cook it for 2 minutes. And you'll know it's ready because you can see the oil kind of oozing out of the masala, the spice mix. That means it's time to move. I'm just chopping up a russet potato. I peeled it. And I've got my masala for it cooking away in that last pan over there. It's gonna go so well with the cauliflower and the potatoes. This was something that we had practically once a week growing up. It's, you know, one of those staple vegetable dishes. We always had a vegetable on the table, and this was often one of them. So follow me as I put it into the pan here. I have this great big serrano pepper in there, so it's be just a little bit spicy. So I'm just gonna toss my vegetables with those spices. I have to tell you, this is one of the vegetables that is really delicate. It's not gonna be really overpowering in flavor, so if you're not used to Indian food or if you find the spicing too heavy, this is a great one to get you started. Look how it takes on that golden color from the turmeric. I'm gonna add just a touch of salt in here, and then a smidge of water, about half a cup. And then I'm gonna cover this essentially and let it steam for like 10 to 15 minutes. And then I'm gonna take the lid off, let it cook uncovered so some of that water evaporates, get a little bit of color on these lovely vegetables. So excited about this. I'm gonna let these cook until they get kind of soft. I know that we're accustomed to having kind of crunchy vegetables, and I love them too, but this tastes better when it's soft and comforting. Oh my God, it's so good. And then a little cauliflower. It's just so delicate. My friends are coming over. They're just dropping by for dinner. And I'm just making a really simple, sort of comforting dinner to get us through this week and get us into the weekend. So my main dish is gonna be some sloppy Bombay Joes. So here's just some fresh ginger. I cut it into planks and then mince it up. I got about a tablespoon. And then the other thing I'm gonna add is a serrano pepper. Serrano pepper turns up a lot in Indian cooking. And this is kind of the Indian triumvirate of flavor. The garlic, the ginger, the serrano. You'll find a lot of recipes start with these 3 things. So in that goes, and we're just gonna let that sweat. Let's talk about spices. So excited. Look at my lovely masala dabba here. Just a masala spice tin. And the first spice that I'm gonna use is this one in the middle here. It's called garam masala. I'm gonna add a little bit of paprika. I'm sure you have it. It has a little smokiness too. And when you add spices to oil, it's called blooming. You'll find this in Indian cooking a lot. Now for some tomato sauce. Can't have sloppy joes without tomatoes. We use a lot of tomatoes in Indian cooking, actually. Almost as much as Italians use them. Oh my gosh, it smells so good in here. Does it smell this good in your house too? And then I'm adding a little water. And that's it. That's your sauce. So we're gonna let this cook for 15 minutes. So let's build the meat mixture. I'm starting off in this pan with some pistachios and raisins. Not your quintessential sloppy Joe ingredients. I know, but stay with me. I love the crunch that pistachios add to these sloppy joes. It's a little bit of the unexpected, and that's always nice. And then I'm adding a handful of raisins. They give you just this lovely little bite of sweetness. Awesome. Okay, that's good. Add a little more oil to the pan because now we're gonna add another secret ingredient, which is some cumin seeds. Love it. Oh, it already smells good. All right, let's throw all of these into our nice hot oil. It's gonna smell so good in here in a second. I'm just gonna saute these up until they get a little bit of color on them. Let them brown. Season them with some salt and pepper. The salt will draw some of that water out. They'll cook a little faster. Awesome. That looks great. So our onions and our bell peppers are coming together so well in here. Oh, you can really smell that cumin. Cumin and bell peppers go so well together, which of course, you know, if you eat Tex-Mex, you know. I'm gonna season it with some salt and some pepper. And then let's add our turkey in here. I'll saute ground turkey with onions, raisins, pistachios, then smother the mixture in a creamy tomato sauce, pile it onto a soft hamburger bun, and that's what I call comfort with a twist. So naan, if you've never heard of it, and for those of you who have, I can hear the chorus of applause because it's just one of the most delicious breads on the planet, but it's not very hard to make. So I'm gonna grab some flour and some yogurt and I'll show you how to make it. It's so simple. It's this really pillowy flatbread that we use as like another hand, you know, to pick up the gravy. So you're gonna need 2 cups of flour, and I'm sifting it just to get rid of all the lumps and kind of aerate it. There we go. And then a teaspoon or so of fine sea salt. And I'm using the fine sea salt so you don't get big crystals of salt in your bread, because that's no fun. And then just to help the yeast along, some baking powder. That's what gives the naan that characteristic pillowiness and tenderness and great flavor. And then I'm just gonna sift this in here. And I gotta tell you, it's a big deal, you guys, that I'm showing you my naan recipe, because it's hard to get it out of people. I had one auntie, she's not my real auntie, but in India, every woman is your auntie, and she shared her naan recipe with me, and I was really honored, because most Indian mamas would not do that. Okay, that's my dry ingredients. Here is my yeast. So to that, I'm gonna add just a couple tablespoons of olive oil, mostly for flavor and to keep it nice and moist. And then some yogurt, just a few tablespoons, 2 or 3 in there. So far, this is pretty simple. You have all these ingredients on hand, right? Not that hard. This goes in here, like that. And then I use my fork because I don't like to get my hands too dirty. So just flour your board and just bring the dough together. And that's it. I'm gonna give it a quick little knead. It's a very, very soft, sticky dough. So don't worry if when you make this recipe, it sticks to your hands. That's kind of why I started with the fork, because look at that. Don't worry. Don't be like, she's led me astray, that Aarti Party. Just trust me. Keep working it. I'm gonna develop some of that gluten by kneading it. So put it out on your board. Look how sticky it is. But that's all good. That means it's gonna be nice and tender. A little flour, and then lightly knead it. You're kind of just pulling it together almost. And the reason is because I wanna keep it nice and soft, so then the naan will be nice and soft. So you see that, it's a little sticky, that's okay, don't over flour it. Goes back in the bowl. Cover it with a tea towel and keep it in a nice, warm, non-drafty spot for 4 hours, and that will give the yeast enough time to rise, and that dough will rise as well. Brilliant. I'm gonna show you my trick for making this in the pan. And then on a floured surface, divide it into 6. So half, and then each one in thirds. There you go. So roll it in here in your flour. And then I'm using my favorite rolling pin. It's nice and thin, so I can really move it around. And then flatten it out a little bit. And you're trying to get it into this teardrop shape. I'm not sure why. I think that's what happens when they slap it onto the side of the oven. The weight of the naan pulls down and turns it into this teardrop. So I'm going to try to recreate that. It's so fun. So this is my trick. I kind of hold it up like that and wiggle it so it gets teardrop shaped. I'm going to dip my fingers in water and just kind of pat it like this so it doesn't stick and keeps it nice and moist on this pan. Then slap it in there and wait a minute. And if it starts smoking like that, that's fantastic. Don't worry about it because it's supposed to get kind of blackened. That's what gives it that characteristic flavor. So wait about a minute, 30 seconds to a minute. It's looking good, looking good. Let me take a look. Yep, and see how these bubbles are forming? That's the yeast at work. Flip it over, and then this is the trick. Bung a lid on it. And what happens is the steam builds in there and pulls the bread apart so you get all those great flaky layers in there. Oh my goodness, it's so good. I'm making cheese today, and you can do it. I'm telling you, you can. This is probably the easiest, least intimidating cheese there is, and it's called paneer. And look, it's come together already. All it is whole milk and lemon juice, and you just sort of boil the milk, add the lemon juice, and it separates, strain it, cheese. 5 minutes. Isn't that amazing? So I'm just gonna pull this out, and even though most of the water is out of it, I want to kind of compress those curds so that I can cut cubes out of it and it will hold. So all you do is kind of form a nice little round, just like that. Put the tail out. Sometimes I've done it this way. It doesn't work. Put the tail out so you get a nice flat disc, just like that. And this goes right over the top. So, like I said, this cheese doesn't melt, so don't be disappointed when it doesn't do that on your cheese on toast or your pizza or whatever. But it is lovely as a meat alternative. Heck, it's its own thing. It's just a joy to eat. So I'm gonna put this in the fridge, let it sit for about 20 minutes, and then it's ready to go. And what you can do after that is wrap it in plastic and keep it for about a week. And you can use it, you know, however you want. So, I've been marinating these cubes of paneer in some oil, some turmeric, some cayenne, and some salt. And I've got a non-stick skillet right here, and I'm just gonna give them a little bit of color. They've been sitting in oil. They don't need any oil in the pan. So that goes in. And then just keep an eye on them so they don't burn. But they should just take a couple of minutes. So the first thing I'm gonna do, just to prep the rest of it, is to dice up an onion. And then I'm gonna do my serrano pepper. This is for flavor and for heat. If you can't handle that heat, just take the seeds out. Beautiful. Okay, let me check on my cheese. Look at that. Beautiful golden brown. I'm only gonna brown one side of it because I find if you brown both sides, then it gets a little tough. So I'm actually gonna pull them out of the pan, just like that. Look how pretty. I love that golden color. It's that turmeric, you know? It gives it great sort of mustardy, bitter flavor, but it also gives it that great color. So I have just a little bit of oil in there. I'm gonna add just a touch more, and I'm gonna add my onions and my serrano. I'm gonna cook it for about 10 minutes. Just do the full 10 because you want it to go nice and toffee colored, and that's how you develop the sweetness in these onions and get some really great flavor in your saag, or else you'll eat it. You ever make something, you're like, something's missing. It's because you didn't brown your onions, all right? So I'm gonna let these go for 10 minutes. add a little salt to kind of draw that moisture out there and flavor as you go. I'm gonna add a little bit of my ginger garlic paste, which is just equal parts of ginger and garlic that I whiz up in a food processor. In that goes. I'm gonna add some spices. Got a couple teaspoons of ground coriander, a teaspoon of ground cumin, and then half a teaspoon of garam masala. Great combo right here. And I can already smell them, my goodness. Whew. So I'm just running my knife through the spinach so that it's nice and easy to eat and you don't get any in your teeth. This goes in, little salt, some of that water, and I'm just gonna let that cook, and that curry is oh so close to being done. And I'm just gonna add some yogurt to it to finish it off. I turn the heat off so that the yogurt won't break up. I'm just gonna stir it in. And then I'm gonna add the cheese in here. This is the cheese I made, marinated it in turmeric and cayenne, and then seared off so that it still had some nice texture in there. It doesn't go soggy in this curry. And that's done, you guys. I'm starting with the chicken for the Chicken Tikka Masala, and I'm just piercing these chicken thighs. Chicken Tikka Masala means nothing more than chicken. Tikka means little pieces. Masala is just the spice blend that we're gonna be using. Pretty simple, right? And I'm using chicken thighs because they're so much more forgiving than breasts. You know, I'm gonna grill these and then I'm gonna cook them in a curry sauce. So I don't want them to dry out. I'm gonna make a very simple yogurt marinade. So I'm using just some plain whole milk yogurt. I'm using whole milk because I think it holds on just a little bit better than the non-fat, but if you're watching what you eat, use the non-fat, it's just fine. So about a cup's worth. And then I'm using this ginger garlic paste. This is one of the things I always have in the fridge. My mum always has it in the fridge. It's just equal parts of ginger and garlic blended together with some canola oil, and it just makes me hungry when I smell it. The ginger is sort of refreshing, a little bit spicy. The garlic has that great bite. If you don't have it, no worries. Just use 3 cloves of garlic, maybe a tablespoon of ginger grated finely, and you'll be golden. All right, some salt, some pepper, and that's your marinade. It's super easy, isn't it? So now that the chicken is nicely pierced, that marinade's gonna go all the way through. And the yogurt actually tenderizes the chicken a little bit. It's doing a couple things at once. I'm gonna give this a toss, and I'm gonna let it just sit on the back counter there at room temperature while I finish my sauce. You could also make this, cover it with plastic, and let it marinate overnight in the fridge. It's great. The sauce. So I'm just gonna preheat this pan, and I'm gonna use a little bit of olive oil for that great flavor, which, you know, we don't actually use a lot of olive oil in Indian food. I just think it's so delicious, though. And I'm not cooking this at a very high heat, so it's not gonna burn. Then for even more flavor and a little richness, some butter right there, and I'm just gonna let that melt. Okay, so for my flavor base, I'm gonna do a very traditional Indian flavor base, which is serranos, ginger, and garlics. All right, so my butter's nicely melted, adding the serranos. As soon as they hit the oil, I can smell them. I'm gonna put a good couple teaspoons of this ginger garlic paste in here. So a good old squeeze of tomato paste. I'm just gonna cook it until it deepens in color and kind of caramelizes. So now it's time to add some spices, and I'm just using 2 to keep it really easy. I'm using 2 teaspoons of paprika, mostly for color, but it has a nice earthiness to it that I love. Then I'm gonna add half a teaspoon of garam masala. It's a little bit of a cheat. It has a ton of different spices in here. Cinnamon and cloves, cumin and coriander in there too. Great way to sneak some Indian flavor into whatever you're making. This is the bulk of your sauce, these gorgeous, gorgeous tomatoes. I'm using the Roma kind. You can also use a can of tomatoes if you don't have good fresh ones. They look great. So that's the masala part of the Chicken Tikka Masala. But what about the chicken, you ask? Here it is. So it's been marinating in yogurt, ginger, and garlic, a little salt and pepper, and I'm gonna treat it to a good grilling. Okay, so I'm just gonna check on them periodically, see if it's good and charred on the one side, and then flip it over. I'm gonna add just a touch of water here. The tomatoes are really going to break down. I'm going to turn this up a little because I want to bring it to a boil and then simmer for about 20 minutes. Time to put the chicken in. This comes together so quickly. I love, love, love this dish. So the chicken was marinated in yogurt, ginger, and garlic, a little salt and pepper, and then I charred it on this grill pan to give it a little extra flavor and great texture. As my final little flavoring touch, I'm going to use some dried fenugreek leaves. In Hindi, we call it methi. We use these a lot in Indian cooking. Has a great, really, really pungent aroma, almost maple-like. So if you can't find these, then try a little maple syrup. That's great. So I'm just gonna give this a stir and, use your judgment. This actually could cook uncovered, but if it's too thick, then put a lid on it. I'm just gonna let this cook 5-10 minutes so the sauce goes into the chicken goes into the sauce. I can't wait. For a little decadence, you could also do some half and half. But this gives it that nice, creamy quality and actually kind of soothes some of that heat, some of the spiciness. So, look at that color, you guys. It looks so good.